And I remember growing up distinctively with my grandmother, who was very fair skinned. So, she doesn't like to say this now, but when she was younger, she would pass for white in order to survive in certain environments like work and certain things like that. And so to this day, if I mention your name, I say, "Hey, Grandma, I'm doing this activity with a friend of mine. His name is John." Her first question is going to ask me, "Is he black or white?"
Question everything. Thoughts, beliefs, habits. Then decide.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of Question Everything with
Juicy
and the Old Man. And today we're talking about how we used to think about race and our interactions with people that may be a little different than what we are. So stay tuned and find out what we used to think and how it's changed. So,
what you got today?
I want to bring up my childhood, which was in a small Pennsylvania town. Handful of black folks, majority white.
Okay.
And the way I was raised in this, I was born in the 60s, so I grew up 60s, 70s was my formative years. Lots of things going on with race, development, advancements, and so on. But there's certain things from my childhood and what I had thought about race to what I think now, and still probably affects me in some ways of thinking about people.
Okay.
In my family, I didn't grow up hearing so much about they, them, us, they're not letting us do this or whatever else. However, my family was still involved in several things. I got pictures of my dad and my brothers and sisters marching for fair housing at that time, along with the public housing situation in Pennsylvania, or not Pennsylvania, but my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost a segregated type way, even in public housing, and they were giving some resources to one area of the public housing, but not necessarily to the other. So the issues were always out there.
Okay.
But in my home itself, it was people are people. As I got older, and about 10 or 11, we moved to New Jersey. A lot more black folks there.
Mm.
And that's really where I started to see the differences among people calling out color or race, almost for the first time. We're back in Pennsylvania, because it was a small town and a small population, and we all kind of grew up together. While it was there, I just didn't realize it. And I'll tell you about how it came back. So, in New Jersey, when we first moved there, it was from the black folk here. Why y'all talk so proper? Where do you think you're from? Well, what's going on with you? And I was like, everyone in my family talks the way that I talk, so I don't know what you're talking about. And that kind of led me, not such an inferiority complex and not a desire to fit in, but that I myself, even in my brown or black skin, felt different, even from other people with brown or black skin. How was it for you when you were growing up?
So I grew up in Miami, Florida. Although, we had a decent black population, but there was a lot of more brown, beige, a lot of colored, different types of colors, but a lot of colored outside of just being, normally white. So, funny enough, I grew up where I may not have experienced it a lot, but I knew it existed. I knew race was a thing. I knew, taking a step back, my dad was in law enforcement. He was a pretrial and probation officer. My mom was a teacher. So both being in that level of servitude, especially in the law enforcement side, I think my dad, as a black male, felt it necessary to teach me as a younger black male and myself just about the world that we grew up in and what I was going to be expected or what I was going to face in the world. And so like I just knew it existed growing up. And so take that dynamic growing up in Miami, and then my mom is from Columbia, South Carolina. So and we traveled up there pretty often. So the stark differences between growing up in the Miamis, where you have such a populous diversity of people, and then you come to Columbia, South Carolina, which oddly enough is very much black and white. A lot more black people congregated or concentrated in that particular area, but still very black and white. And I remember growing up distinctively with my grandmother, who was very fair skinned. So, you know, she doesn't like to say this now, but when she was younger, she would pass for white in order to survive in certain environments like work and certain things like that. And so to this day, if I mention your name, I say, "Hey, Grandma, I'm doing this activity with a friend of mine. His name is John." Her first question is going to ask me, "Is he black or white?"
Oh, really? Okay.
To this day, and it's nothing bad. She doesn't like respond in any type of way because of that color distinction, but it's just her natural inclination. So like the way she thought about it. So it just, you imagine now that she's almost 90, she still asks that question, what it was like when she was 50, 40, when I was growing up. So it's just something I've always just been aware of. So like I didn't, like I said, I didn't have experienced it a lot, but I was very conscious of it, aware of it, and was cognizant of it as I operated in my day-to-day life. So it was a part of my upbringing and my story.
Right. And I've talked to folks, it's not part of my experience of feeling like I needed to be better to get advantages or the same advantages of what white folks got or anybody else got. I always believed that I was good enough, and maybe it was that, you know, Pollyanna thing from my grandparents, first slave, you know, you can grow up and be anything you want to be, as long as you work hard and everything else. So it was never, I didn't grow up in a household, although going to the barber shop and stuff when I was a kid, I would hear
it.
They never going to let a colored man do that, or never going to let a black man do that. And it never rang for me. It didn't make sense. I didn't get where that was coming from. But I kind of look at the words people use and the way people talk now, and I wonder, is that way of thinking, maybe I should have thought like that. Maybe it was not a disbelief that racism exists for me. It was that no matter what, I can still do what I want to do.
You know, it's a catch-22, right? And I'm gonna go down a slightly different path than just particularly talking about race, but just the concept of when you're raised being, I would call being self-aware. So like everything, like I said, I don't think my parents raised me to be like, okay, you have to be aware of your, you know, like aware of your race, and you're black, and every time you walk outside, you can't do this, you can't do that. But it was an overall self-awareness that I had, that if I was in certain situations, I just kind of assumed how people would interact with me or how people would talk to me. Or if I got pulled over at cops, I kind of knew what to do and how to change my voice and all those different things just to adapt to situations. So the catch-22 I found, though, is that growing up as a 40-year-old man now, I am very self-aware about how I interact with people, how people feel about me, how people connect to me, how people react to things I do and say. But it also makes me, but what I'm learning to do is find ways to not care about what people think about me, because I'm so aware of it, because I'm so self-aware about how I am and how I come off to people. I used to always think, okay, I have to care about what you think about it and blah, blah, blah. And I would change my behavior in order to adapt to those situations.
Component in that?
It's not really a racial component, but I feel like a lot of it came because of the conversations we had about race.
Okay, so getting back to what we were saying. And so I may have missed a little bit of what you said, but that difference or having to feel that, or not feel that it matters to you what they think of you. Is that for people because of racial lines, or is that just people in general?
I feel like it was people in general, but I feel like a lot of it stemmed from race. I feel like it was all, the basis of the conversation was all race. Now, because as I was growing up, although race was like the impetus for why we were having these conversations, the gay side is what affected me more. So like me, especially like as growing up, I probably wasn't the most masculine of what you would consider to be that type of masculine type of man. So I found myself trying to fit in or, use masculinity or act differently in order to fit in, so people didn't think I was gay and stuff like that. So for me, the race conversations became more of a gay topic, whereas other people I think were battling the race card, and I didn't have the many issues like that. Although I was very self-aware of it, I didn't find myself in situations where I had to like somebody belittle. Now I will say when I got to probably the biggest one was when I got to after I graduated college. I went to a HBCU, and of course you're grained, you're around your people, like that experience is phenomenal. But it is a slight shell shock when you come out and you're entering the workforce, especially in corporate America, and majority of what you were used to dealing with is no longer there anymore. And I'll never forget the first thing someone told me. I think it was someone who worked in my university who knew I was going into this corporate accounting job, and they told me, okay, you got to cut your goatee off. You got to look like the man. I don't know where this concept of who the man was, but the man was a white man with no goatee and a certain look. And I was told I need to look like that man. Now,
Who told you that?
a black person at my school. And now they did it all for the right reasons, because at that time, as what we were told was, especially as a young black man coming into corporate America, it wasn't about pushing the envelope or, trying to make them think or look at you differently. It was about fitting in, trying to get some money and work your way up the quiet ways you can in the back without causing too much, disruption. But the first day I started on that job, I did cut my goatee off. And funny enough, I also had just went bald then too, so I had cut my hair off. So I was going this whole new transformation look. And the first day, the first white man that I saw, who happened to be my boss at that time, he looked at me because he remembered me from my internship and asked me, "Where's your goatee?" That's the first question he asked me, "Where's your goatee?" And so I think the reason I brought up that moment, because the concept of what was told to me about adjusting myself could have lasted for years. I would have been constantly adjusting myself over, just because I felt like I had to do it because of the advice of that one person. But it had not been for my boss or that particular white man that said something to me to counteract that misconception I had, I probably would have been a whole different path than I am right now. He helped me start the path of saying, you don't have to live life according to what people say you have to do or in this box or blah, blah. Just do you. Where this concept of why you got to look like the man and all that kind of stuff came from, we have no idea. But we did live by it for a certain period of time. And I'm sure you probably experienced that too, coming into some type of corporate America gig when you were younger.
Well, my biggest thing was I entered the military when I was 19.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a whole different culture where, for the Air Force anyway, at that particular time was more on, are you getting the job done, or are you getting it right? I can't speak for the other branches of the service in the 80s. But that was my experience for the Air Force. But one thing that I did kind of notice as I was growing up and as I got older, and I started thinking about things and I started questioning and maybe started realizing that for white people in this country, they don't think about race as much as what
We do.
any minorities do in this area. And it's kind of natural because you don't have to, it's not a concern. But what that led me to realize is them or any person being against me is not the first thing on their mind when they wake up. Same concerns, am I going to feed my family, am I going to have a nice day, am I going to get along with whatever. Same concerns that we have. So I found that whether it be myself or the family members, that we can put that pressure on ourselves. That's not really coming from outside, it's coming from internally to ourselves.
I do agree.
Yeah.
I do agree, especially and depending on what the topic and most of the time when you see people react to things and race becomes the first thing they throw out,
Right.
it's an insecurity thing. I will say though, just in my line of work and in my experiences, there are unconscious bias is a real thing, and there are a lot of things that we do subconsciously and how we interact, talk to people, just because of what our backgrounds are, our experiences, how we were raised. And so subconsciously you may be interacting or throwing darts at someone and you're, passive aggressive and you really don't know you're doing it because this is maybe how you were raised or what you're used to, but you could be attacking a person and not even realize it. So sometimes I don't automatically think, what I'll say is to counteract what you said, I don't always think ill intent.
Right.
Now, just because you may have said it and it may still have hurt, my feelings are valid. So if it hurt my feelings or anybody else's feelings, that feeling is still valid. But I may not assume ill intent. I may just assume miseducation or a lack of experience, or I still may need to pull you to the side and let you know don't do that to somebody else.
Well, exactly, because
Yeah.
people are acting out of ignorance in the general form of the word.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a problem there, so I did. Now that I know, I'll do better. You had mentioned something a little bit earlier about maybe changing the way you talk in front of other people.
Code
Kinda call
shifting.
that code switching.
Yeah.
And I used to be a word kind of snob in that I used to think either certain accents or certain like word usage meant either more education, less education, less. And I started listening, and this is watch or listen to A Way with Words. They do podcasts. Sometimes you hear them on NPR, but they're not affiliated. And that got me over that because it's a show about words, and they talk about where words come from and everything else. And they talk so much about, people just have different accents from where they're from. As long as they're communicating with you and you understand what they are saying, the communication is had. Their word choice or their word usage is not as important as them being able to communicate with you.
Yeah. I mean, but it makes you even think about the questioning everything part, which is who said that this was one level or one type of communication style or way of speaking that is now, the most predominant or the best, and everything else is subpar.
Or the one is a certain way, the older English is a more articulate way of speaking.
Correct. Or even the concept of having educated, because I mean, there is when you learn the English language, there is a science to the English language, but there's also an art to it too. Right. And so we learn the science in school that some people may not know. You can't put this word with that word and that blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, are we still communicating? Are we still able to have dialogue? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes.
Right. And the biggest thing is that words change and word usage changes.
Of course.
So this is go to one thing that I still have an issue with. And while it's not necessarily on race, it does hit on sexuality, which is the term queer. Okay. And why I just have a difficulty applying it to myself and using it. And it's what the word originally meant, or at least the past 100 years meant, of something that is off from the norm, different, outside, and as default undesirable. So I shy away from the word. But knowing that words change and develop and have new meanings and new parts to it, I'm at least more open-minded to others calling themselves queer. Yeah. And also understanding that may mean more than just a sexuality. It may come along with a way of thinking, a framework, even a political type thing. So I allow that to be its own thing. Yeah, and
you mentioned words. When you think about the word queer, for me, queer to me means different. But when I think about maybe your generation and even kind of generation I was raised in, different wasn't embraced. So the concept of queer was actually bad. Whereas now I think the word queer is more embraced because difference is embraced. Like, people want you to be different. They don't want. If you look at the whole concept of DEI, the way we initially put it together for corporate America was that we wanted to have a line of 10 people and be able to say that all 10 people have some kind of difference with them. There's either you're taller, you're shorter, you're black, you're white, you're from this background, you're from that background, but everybody is different in some way. And that's kind of what we were trying to embrace. So I think that's probably why the word queer was more embraced now than it was then. But when you think about race and you think about words, there's a big word that comes to mind, and it's the N-word. And the way the N-word is used now versus the way it's used then there's the concept of the variations, the ER at the end, the A at the end. And, I would say my personal experience growing up in Miami, where typically the N-word is attached to Black or African American or someone of that background. But there are other cultures and races who have taken on the social use of the word and have used it a lot more than most of us, that being typically the Hispanic race, especially in Miami. I grew up with people non-Black saying the N-word. And I very quickly grew a distinction between the ER and the A at the end. And so the A at the end was more of a social term. And if you were a part of a culture that I felt like that wasn't related to race, but just a culture of hip hop and all those kind of things, I had to allow you to say that word because of the culture we were in. Music said it, it permeated. But ER was still very closed off. And to me, there was a distinction between the two.
The first time I can actually recall hearing the word was, I grew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
Was roots.
Okay.
And it just, small town too, plus our population just wasn't used. And so when that, it's like, okay. Yeah, it was a word that we like knew.
Yeah.
No one
used it, yeah.
And to hear it as commonly as it was used in that. And it put a weight on the word.
Yes.
That so for me, that was how I understood the word. So in the ER version of it, it's not comfortable for me to say. Other variations, less sense.
Yeah.
And again, to me, that goes back to words, that those are indeed different words with different meanings, maybe same root, but they mean different things.
Yeah.
And of course, everything is how you say it as well.
It's context too. Yeah, it's how you say it.
Who was saying it.
Correct.
Which then goes back to race itself, and how they are saying it and why they are choosing to use the word.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's the trick thing. It is, and it's a very uncomfortable situation to have, especially like I at a concert where Jay-Z is playing. Like I was at Beyonce concert and he has a song called "Ends in Paris," and that's the song he decided to perform. And of course, I'm looking around and people are saying the word, but what can I say? We're at a hip hop concert. It is a mixed crowd. So it just becomes one of those things where, and I think some people, I say choose your battles basically, but some people choose to still be upset about it, and that's just one thing I'm like, I can't afford to waste any time, energy into that particular word or that use of the word because of how predominant it is in our society now.
Yeah, I substituted in middle school, and just hearing kids coming in the classroom singing a song.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And it's just what they grew up with. It's part of the song.
They don't know any difference. Yeah, they didn't watch
Exactly.
Roots. They didn't get the weight from Roots.
and it's kind of like them using the word gay. It has a totally different meaning than a derogatory term.
Yeah.
In the sense of having it to do with your sexuality specifically.
Yeah.
These days.
Well, the funny thing is, and it's kind of similar to how we use words in the gay lifestyle too. But I had a conversation with someone who was non-black just around the N-word, very casual, nothing like antagonizing or anything. And they asked me a very interesting question that I did not know the answer to, but it made me think about things differently. And was like, well, why do black people get so upset about the N-word usage, ER or A, just if somebody from non-black who uses it, but they use it so much against each other? And I was like, I don't know. Especially we do it so publicly. It's in songs, it's in, TV shows, on reality TV. It's in everything we do it against each other, but we get mad when somebody else does it to us or. So I was like, I didn't know how to answer that question. But it is something that made me think about just how when I think about what's important to me and my the things that are non-negotiables, how are things that are non-negotiables for me. How do I make sure that they're also non-negotiables in how I interact with people on a normal basis? I can't say don't curse me out, and every time you turn around, I'm cursing people out.
That's true. Yeah, that particular phrase has so much weight, and it's very hard to find a word that applies to other cultures in theirs that has the same weight.
Yeah.
There's some that are similar, some that are clearly derogatory. But that one particular one hits in a way. And I think because of the history of it, I am just not one to just bring it out and use it. But I'm not offended when I hear, other black folks say it or whatever.
Yeah.
It is. And depending on how other groups are saying it, I'm not offended with it either. There was like one thing where they were discussing it in a kind of an academic term,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of
Makes sense.
to do it and keep saying the N word didn't make any sense. So they were.
Yeah.
And it was a discussion.
Yeah.
So it made sense.
It became a noun.
Right.
They removed the weight from it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's different ways of
Yeah.
So.
I mean, there's other words like that. I mean, I think of like the word bitch when it comes to like women and just gender. How that's such a, I have one friend that, it's a really interesting story. I'm gonna look at the camera for this one. It was my birthday party and we were playing spades. It was a group of folks and it was myself, another gay male and then a gay male and a female on a team playing spades. And in all jest, we were just laughing, joking, and it was like, I think we were talking about reneging. So if you know about spades, you know what reneging is and not look it up. And we were concerned that maybe she had reneged. And so in jest and being funny, he said, bitch, I hope you ain't reneged. She said, don't call me bitch again. He was like, bitch, 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 bitch. All hell broke loose. I mean, the party was over, house shut down. Luckily, the cops did not get called. But that was a really, really tough situation. I've never seen someone get so upset over a word, especially in more of a social setting. But it's, again, it takes me back to just the power of words, especially words that attack a gender or attack a race or attack a sexual orientation.
Yes, there are. And I'll let that go because that's a whole nother
topic
too on just words. So we're going to end this with one little maybe experiment of one little questioning.
Okay.
So, if I say this, I want to see how you answer it. Going to a potluck and someone says, "I don't eat everyone's
food."
Specifically.
Everybody's cooking.
Yeah, specifically what food?
I mean, depending on the race,
What food?
it's either potato salad or mac and cheese.
And potato salad because
I mean, typically other folks outside of the Black or African American race like to put abnormal things in their potato salad, like raisins.
really. So
I must be a funny. I'm like, do they really put raisins in their potato salad?
well, I don't know, but since we're questioning everything,
Okay,
I have prepared something a little bit for you.
interesting.
Grab your bowl there, as you can see.
Okay, this looks like raisins in my potato salad.
Yeah,
Go
there's a little
ahead.
bit of raisins in your potato salad.
Okay.
So we're going to have a little taste test.
Okay.
We're going to question whether it is. He's like licking his lips. Like I don't think I want to. We on TV, so go ahead and dig in.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna eat the part without the raisin first to see if that
Well, this is not like this is doctored up.
Okay, so without potato salad is not bad. It's giving mustard base. I'm really scared to eat these raisins though. I haven't gotten to the raisin yet.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Eat up, please.
I have to question this. Why are we doing this? It serves no purpose. It serves no purpose. I don't know why they have it in there.
So,
If the consistency is not even the same. Like it's chewy. You're gonna be chewing on the raisin longer than you chewing on the potato.
so
I don't know why it's in
from my
there.
opinion, this is one of the times when you question everything, and sometimes what you thought is the way it should be.
Take them raisins out.
It's been another episode of Question Everything with
Juicy.
and the old man. So whether you like your potato salad with raisins or plain, question it, figure out why, and know what you're doing. We're out. Peace.
Booyah.